Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory podcast. Today, we are going to cover a requested case, and it is related to mental illness. So, I want to give a trigger warning, but this is one of those cases that I think it's very important to share because it opens eyes to see that mental illness is not something that a lot of people believe is used more and more recently. It really is more about not knowing enough, in my opinion. And I think that today's case really represents one of them, or a combination of them, and it might help you see this through other lenses. And I think we all need to be a little bit more compassionate and a little bit less judging when true mental illness is involved, especially in this case. The victim is the one suffering from a mental illness, and I'm not going to give it away, but it really plays another role when we cover cases like I've done before, where the person with a mental illness is typically the perpetrator. So it's kind of the other side of the coin, and I just wanted to let you know that in case you really don't want to hear about it, maybe it triggers something for you, so just so you know. Welcome, everyone, though. I truly appreciate you coming back. If you're listening to the podcast on Wednesday as a replay on YouTube, thank you so much for being here. And I hope that you stay until the end and share with me your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoy the podcast here, please make sure you let me know with a thumbs up. And if you're listening in your favorite podcast platform, which I'm obsessed with podcasts as of recently, so I've been listening to a lot of them. I've been downloading a bunch of them because of my internet situation living in the Woodneys. So it's just one of those things that I truly enjoy listening to while I'm doing something else. So I hope I can be that for you. And if you don't know what app to download to listen to the podcast, please check out Stitcher. It's kind of connected to the server. I don't even know how to call it. The service that I use for releasing the podcast, which is Lisbon. So if you download this Stitcher app, you have access to all the podcasts since day one. I'm going to slowly start to remove them from iTunes so I can have more room to share more cases, because sometimes I run out of room. So check out the Stitcher app if you're interested. And if you don't mind leaving review before you go, that'd be awesome. That helps my podcast kind of be noticed a little bit more. And in a very saturated market of true crime, it really helps. So thank you so much. Now let's talk about today's case, and let's start from the beginning, because I kind of read the story backwards, like what happened in the end, and then I learned about Deanne's life, and I thought that it would make sense if we start from the beginning, as I like to do most of the time. But Deanne was born in the desert, really. She was from Pahrump, Nevada, which is a place that I've been before. It's pretty deserty, maybe not the biggest place in the world. But when she was in the 4th grade, her family decided to move to Spokane, Washington. Haven't been there though. In 1996, everything changed when she was 15 years old. They were still living in Spokane, and she was a typical, teenager. She was a typical kid There was no complaints about anything. But in 1996, her parents divorced. And that can be something very traumatic and kind of life-changing for a lot of people. But, I'm assuming that experts can argue with me that, this could trigger something mentally. But in her case, it kind of changed everything. At that time, her brother Carson, which was older than her, left for boot camp in Texas. And so it was only Deanne and her mom because of their recent divorce. When she was 17 years old, she got pregnant. And she had a son. And his name was Hayden. And he was born on July of 1998. So she decided to move in with her boyfriend and Hayden's dad, of course, and they stayed together for a while. But after a few years, they decided that they were not a good match and that they would stay friends, but kind of each one of them kind of had their own lives, be apart. And so they broke up, and she decided to move out of the house. And she moved in back with her mom. At that point, her mom noticed that she started having manic episodes where she would turn aggressive and even violent. According to her mom, she would curse and said, hurtful things to make you mad or upset or sad. And this was particularly with the people that she loved, like her mom and, friends and whoever was around, really. Her mom described these episodes as being a different person. And so she decided, instead of hurting her family, that when she was going through these manic episodes, she would go away. Like, she would hide for a few days and then she'd come back. After the episodes, she would be so tired and she would go to bed and sleep for days. Then she would come back and apologize to everyone. She was so embarrassed about everything that she was doing and saying to them. Finally, in her mid-20s, she was diagnosed with bipolar disorder, which would explain these episodes. Now, I want to add a little something here because it was not said, but I wonder if when she was living with her boyfriend, she was having these episodes, or a mild case of these episodes, meaning, maybe being hurtful to her partner and maybe transforming into a different person, and he just couldn't see the signs, and that's why they ended up splitting up. I wonder, because it was kind of pointed that they started after she moved in with her mom, after being with her boyfriend for a few years. But, just wondering if that's really when they started. But once she was diagnosed, it was decided that and I don't know, decided by who really, but she couldn't be a mom. I think it was a decision that people around her made, maybe even her mom and her brother, Carson. So they decided that it was going to be best for her to move to Texas with Carson, the brother that went to boot camp during the divorce. Apparently, she thrived there, according to her brother, and she met a guy by the name of Reilly, who happened to be also in the military. They moved in together, they got married, they had a daughter and a son. But apparently after that, her episodes came back, and it was too much for the couple, so they divorced after 9 years of being together. Deanne needed help with the kids, so her ex, being in the military and away for some of the time, he decided to talk to his mother-in-law or ex-mother-in-law and kind of work an arrangement where Deanne was going to come back and spend time with her, and so the grandma could take care of the kids. But the episodes when she came back to Spokane got worse and ended up in Idaho in an inpatient treatment facility to get treated. When she completed her treatment, she went back to Spokane, and her kids had to stay with her mom until she was stable enough to take care of them. At this point, her oldest son, Hayden, was living with his dad. And according to the brother, he was like an awesome dad. So I'm glad that he had a dad like that to be there for him while his mom was dealing with all this turmoil in her life and mental illness. In November 2015, she was doing better and was trying to get her kids back. She was staying on her meds, and she met this other guy, Mike Tibbetts, who she got engaged to, and they were super happy planning the wedding and kind of planning the rest of their lives together. On November 3rd, she was ready for her first day of cosmetology school, and she just went there, and I think she was doing it for herself, to find something she was passionate about and just work on that particular career. But I think she also was trying to please people around her. I know that she called her son Hayden and said, I had my first day of school and I am so excited. I hope you're proud of me. I think she was in a good place at that point. But later that night, at this point, Deanne was 35 years old, okay? Her son's girlfriend, so Hayden's girlfriend, stopped by her house to get advice because apparently they had a fight. And so she was giving her advice, and she was also telling her about cosmetology school. So they talk about the experience. And according to, Hayden's girlfriend, Deanne was very easy to talk to, and they had a good time. She kind of understood what was going on and gave her the best advice that she could. And it was pretty simple, he loves you. He'll come back to his senses. So Melanie, Hayden's girlfriend, leaves about 9:30 p.m. and Mike gets home at around 10 p.m. and Deanne was not home. He goes to the kitchen and he finds a note saying that she went to the store and she'd be back soon. By 11:30, Mike goes to the grocery store because now he's worried. The store is closed. She's not back. The car is not there. At 2:30 a.m., there were no signs of her. So Mike decided to track her phone. He ends up finding her car in a parking lot. And when he looks inside through the window, he realizes that the phone is there, her purse is there, but she's not there. Mike had no key of the car, so he decided to stay by it in case that she'd come back. At 8 a.m., he called the school and wondered if she went to school that day. I mean, she was super excited and thought maybe, she left the car here, but she's going to go to school. But the school reported that she never made it. Mike at that point decided to look for her. He, at that moment, printed some missing posters and started to put them around town, which is kind of interesting because you'd think that you'd call the police at this point, but there's a good explanation for that. At 12:30, he gets an alert of a credit card being used at a grocery store in, I guess it's Cheney, which is 4 miles away from where the car was. So he goes and waits by her car instead of going to the store. He thought, she's gonna go buy something, come back to the car, which, why would you leave it 4 miles away? I have no idea. But he thought of that, which, okay, I wouldn't have thought of that. I don't know why. But he regrets that, because when he finally goes to the store, he takes a picture and asks around. And, there's this guy that said, yeah, I think I saw her. But, at that point, he notices that there are cameras and asks to see them. The manager said, we can't do it today, but I can do it on Saturday. Just come back Saturday. We'll check them. At 10:20 a.m. on Thursday, so this is 36 hours after the note, Mike calls the police. You have to understand that because of her episodes and everything, she has done this before. And she would just kind of go away when she had one of those episodes and come back after she got over them. So they got this idea that she'd come back. I mean, she's done this before. She's gonna come back soon. Now, because of that, he doesn't even call the family to say, hey, I can't find her. I'm gonna report her missing to the police. I mean, he didn't even do that. I'm talking about Mike, Deanne's fiancé. But Carson, her brother in Texas, ends up finding out that she is missing because of some news that a friend of his watched. He was like, isn't this your sister? And then, at that point, he wasn't even mad at Mike, because really he thought, well, she's having a manic episode. She's going to show up somewhere. She's fine. He calls his mom and says, Deanne is missing. I learned through the news. And the mom, for whatever reason, she later on said in an interview that she knew that this time was different. Now, Saturday rolls around and Mike goes to check the store's footage, okay? When he looks through the footage, he finds Deanne, who was very disoriented. You can see the footage. I mean, she does look disoriented. And she's kind of looking over her shoulder, being paranoid. And she bought birthday candles and vodka. But there was something going on before that, before she actually got in the store. Apparently, neighbors mentioned that she was around the neighborhood before going into the store. They saw her and they thought that she was acting very, very strange. There was a salon nearby, and this lady that worked there actually called the police. And she said that Deanne, even entered the salon and started saying, "Mommy, mommy." So when she called the police showed up and said, I've been drugged. I don't remember my name, but I don't want to go home. And she said that, but at the same time, she didn't apparently act that way to the police. Medics were there, the police went there, but apparently there is not and this is something that I heard, don't quote me on it, but apparently there wasn't an public intoxication law kind of thing. Like, you could be wasted and, drinking. I don't know what was that all about. But she started saying that she thought that she was beat up, and the officer, which was a female, didn't see any signs of her, being, I don't know, hit or something. She just didn't have any bruises or anything to prove that. So at that point, Deanne walks away and she goes into the grocery store. The officer stayed behind and watched her as she got out of the grocery store and walked towards a coffee shop. Now, this is all we know after the fact, of course. At this point, Mike doesn't know really all of this. All he knows is that she went into the grocery store and that happened. Now, you're probably wondering, why didn't the police inform this to Mike? Because if there's a report of a missing person, and if there was, if Mike told them that she was at the grocery store at that time and they checked the records and there's an officer that was called for a lady that was apparently under drugs or, the influence of alcohol, I wonder how they didn't put things together. Well, this is why. Apparently it took them so it was reported sometime during the week and it took them until the next Monday to actually get her case because of her history of disappearing and not being a priority, being an adult. So anyway, on Sunday, Mike gets a call from a guy saying that he was with Deanne the night that she disappeared. Okay, apparently the guy saw the flyer, and when he gets there, he's the same guy that he asked if he'd seen Deanne before. And the guy starts telling Mike that they met at this bar. And the bar was particularly neat, super close by where her vehicle was parked. So keep that in mind. It kind of makes sense that she was there. And he said that she asked him for a cigarette and that they left together. They were drinking and they were smoking pot. And he also said that they spent the night at his apartment. And in the morning, they both went to the grocery store where he worked at. He was not going in for his shift. He was going to buy cigarettes. And she decided to stay in the car, just waiting for him, to come back. Now, Mike asked him, did you have any kind of did you guys have sex? What did you guys do? And he said that no, not really. They were just smoking and drinking, which Mike didn't believe. When he came back to the car, she was not there. He looked around, but he couldn't find her. And so, by the car, it seems like when she got out, she dropped this keys. And so he gives them to Mike. Mike goes to the parking lot and takes the car with him because they were her car keys. Mike checks for unusual text or calls on her phone, but there was nothing really. Again, this kind of bothers me because I feel like if you are, even though the police is not taking the time to look at your case, but if you believe that she's in danger or she was taken or something is wrong with her, the last thing you want to do is to tamper with evidence. Basically opening the car, putting your, when I read about that, I was like, are you kidding me? Why would you? I mean, you are messing with, what if somebody was inside the car with her? What if she was taken and you are basically messing up all the evidence that you could get from that car? And him going through her cell phone, I mean, I get it, but at the same time, I don't get it. I would have taken it to the police immediately and be like, do something, this is her phone, something is up. But that night, Mike and some other friends went to this guy's home and went through the house. They asked for his permission, but she wasn't there. I guess Mike thought that he was hiding her or something. And by the next Monday, so the next week, the police began their investigation. They go through her cell phone record, and it just was nothing there to be like, okay, this is interesting or this is odd. Or they found a text at 10 p.m. that she, texted her son with the news and being excited and hoping that he was proud of her, something that I mentioned before. And then they had to go through the cameras that they had, and they showed some activity also on her credit card on November 7th and November 12th. And then, this was a week after her purchase at the grocery store. So there was evidence that she was alive. I mean, she was using her credit card, or at least that's what it seemed like. When they look at the footage at the stores, they realize that whoever is using these cards, or it's not really Deanne. So they kind of grab still pictures of this footage, and they decided to share it within the hour with the press to kind of get help from the public. And they got a name. His name was Reilly. When they looked into him, he had a criminal record. He was homeless and he was an addict. Now, he was recently evicted from his last place because of lack of payment. But on November 25th, Randy's last landlord remembers seeing him on November 4th walking with another guy and a woman nearby where he was living. When she was given a picture of Deanne, she could recognize her and said, yeah, it was Deanne. So the police follow the trail. After the grocery store, she goes to a storage place where she meets with these guys and enter a storage unit. The lady, somebody there, said that she remembered Deanne at that point and, going with the guys and everything. And she said that she saw her on the floor intoxicated. While she was walking with the guys and sitting around and kind of hanging out, there was another neighbor that saw her and asked her if she was okay. Deanne said that she was going through a divorce. And the lady said that she thought that Deanne looked okay, just sad and dealing with something. So they ended up finding this third person that was with them. And apparently there's a big thing and we're gonna uncover it, but bear with me. While they were looking for Randy, somebody reported him that he was living with his mom and one of his girlfriends. So they took him in to be questioned, and he said that he spent the afternoon with Deanne and that friend. His name is James, and that they were drinking vodka, which matches what she bought at the grocery store when she was with the other guy. He also said that Deanne gave him her credit cards and said, go get yourself something to eat. They had to question him for a while, and after going back and forth, he was arrested on December 10th for identity theft and brought in for questioning. Now, at that point, the police was pressuring him into saying, how did you actually get a hold of the credit cards? Because they can't really charge him with her disappearance, but they can charge him with stealing these credit cards and using them. So they wanted to know how he actually got a hold of them, and he said that Deanne left her jacket on the side of the road and that he went through the pockets and found them. And this was the day after they were drinking with her. So he pleads guilty to second-degree theft and possession of stolen property. When they questioned the third guy, James, he said he didn't know how Randy got the cards, that he was not with him when he got them. So he starts telling another kind of part of the day when they all went to this spot, and there was kind of a hill, and there were some bushes there, and she decided to go to pee there. He apparently, James said that he went to go get her, but she wouldn't want to leave. She said that Randy also tried to go get her, but she didn't want to leave, and he came back alone. So they were both there. They both went up the hill where she was doing her business. They both came down the hill and decided to leave her there. So according to both of them, she stayed at that spot that was only 300 yards away from her home. So it would make sense that she wanted to stay there because she wanted to go home. They searched this particular spot, but they couldn't find anything. No, nothing that kind of led them to believe that she was there. Now the police turned to Mike, of course, because he was asked for her cell phone, but he never gave it to the police. He was asked for the note that she left, and he never gave it to the police, saying that if that was the last thing that he got from her, he wanted to keep it safe and that the police wouldn't do that. So the police started digging into Mike's and Deanne's relationship, and apparently they were struggling. According to her friends, she was trying to leave him. She said she was sure that Mike was drugging her at night. And this was right before, a few weeks before she disappeared on October the 20th. And she even not only told a friend about this, but she said, I'm going to go to the doctor and I'm going to report it. Because in case that this happens again, I have a way to prove that he's done this before. There's some kind of record. So she went to the doctor and she said that the doctor thought that she was crazy, but at least there's a record. Mike denies everything and said that she was being paranoid and hearing voices right before she disappeared. She said several times before disappearing that she believed that somebody was breaking in the house and drugging the water supply. I don't know what she thought they were putting in the water, but that is something that actually a lot of people believe when they are going through an episode. They believe that there's somebody trying to poison them or put something inside their head, or and so she was even wondering if maybe the neighbors were in it. He said that she would get these episodes, but she would go into these episodes for about 2 hours and then go back to normal, so they weren't that bad. But then he explained something that makes a lot of sense. He said that she was in between, or she was in the process of switching drugs or the medicine that she was taking for her mental illness. Apparently, the drug that was working for her, the medicine that was working for her, was not something that her insurance would cover. So they were trying to give her something similar. And I'm not saying, how, sometimes there's like the main drug and then there's like, it's a generic one. No, this is a different thing. And she was fighting for it, but she wasn't able to afford, the full price without the insurance, which I've been there. for my asthma medicine, and that situation sucks because when you're used to something that works for you and all of a sudden there's something new that you have to try because it's unbelievably expensive, like I'm talking about $400 a month kind of a medicine with insurance. I totally understand what they were going through. So she was switching medicines, and he believed that that's why she was going through this. On January 2016, Amanda, which is one of her Deanne's best friends, gets a message on the Facebook page that they had for Deanne. It is from Randy's friend, James, who wants to talk to Deanne's family. So Carson, Deanne's brother, called James, and you're expecting something different from this guy. He already gave his statement to the police, and him calling saying that he wants to talk to the family really makes you wonder if he knows more, or actually it makes you think that he knows more. So when Carson called James said that again, the three of them were together. She went to pee up the hill. Randy followed her and then came back 10 minutes later alone. So that was kind of different. He also said that she told him that she was walking home, that she was super close to home. And so it kind of matches, but now he's saying that Randy spent 10 minutes with her, which is plenty of time to do something terrible to somebody. After Mike moved out of the house that he shared with Deanne, the police went in with cadaver dogs, but they couldn't find anything. Something interesting that you should know, that the guy from the grocery store quitted and moved to Florida right after he was interrogated by the police. Randy got only 13 months in prison for theft. And this investigation is still open. Now, I feel like this case kind of packs a lot of information in a short amount of time, but at the same time, it goes through all kinds of difference up and down in somebody's life. For the police, it could be something like, there's another junkie, or another drunk, or another person blaming mental illness, or dare I say, another crazy. I don't think they mean it that way, but I think after a while of seeing cases over and over, I think you kind of numb yourself, or I believe that they do. But for a family that had been through what, Deanne's illness and development and rehab and everything, for them it's not another case. It's not another person. It's not, for them it's a mother, a daughter, a friend, a fiancé. And in this case, I feel like it's so messed up, the idea that Mike, kind of played detective to try to find her. But I can't blame it either, and I cannot say that he did it, like he got rid of her, because I think he was just doing what he thought was best for somebody that used to disappear for a few days. So where do we draw the line? Where do we think it's okay to treat cases differently? If you have a mental illness, then we'll treat it this way. If you're used to disappearing for a few days, then we'll treat you this other way. If you are a junkie, we'll treat your case this other way. I just feel like it's so unfair. And it's so not okay to make differences because of things you're going through in life. Things that may be something you're born with, things that you're addicted to. I don't think anybody deserves to be forgotten. And I don't think anybody deserves to be not a priority. And I do get it. These things happen, and she was not the only one missing. I'm sure she was not the only one missing in Spokane at the time. But where do we draw the line? When do we place people in different categories? Which one is our priority? Do we have to pick a priority? Do we have to pick a case and make a priority over other ones? Or is it okay? When is it okay to not be a priority? It bothers me to think about that. I don't know, that you or me or your son or your daughter or mine could be treated differently because of who they are or what they're going through, or even an illness, an addiction. So if you know anything, I'm going to leave a phone number, which is 509-477-2233. What do I think happened to Deanne? Well, something terrible happened. And it is so sad to think that after learning about these cases over and over again, some of these people that went missing, sometimes they're just homeless in a different state, in a different county, or sometimes they're just living around the corner. And I'm saying homeless because that's the way that a lot of people end up as, because they're not even remembering who they are or what they want, or suffering from that mental illness that really can't make them understand that they're loved and that somebody's looking for them. So is she alive? It's possible. Without her meds, she could be in another completely different state. Maybe drinking, maybe doing drugs, maybe with the wrong company. But maybe she's not alive. And maybe Randy or James, or there's a possibility that she came back home and somebody was home and got rid of her. These are all scenarios, nothing is proven. But is it possible that she came back home and maybe Mike was there? Yeah, it's possible. But there's no proof of it because dogs went through the house and there's nothing that proves that there was a dead body inside. So it kind of throws out that theory out the window. So many possibilities and so many sad cases around mental illness that either are, just the perpetrator who suffers from one and doesn't even know it, or it's not being treated, or cases like this that are not the priority for the authorities, and that they waited way too long to look for this girl who actually was crying for help, calling her mom. So if you, like me, I am holding myself accountable for this, but if you see somebody getting inside a store and calling you mommy, or if you see that they're acting weird, or if you see that, they need help, just call the police. You're not ratting them out. You're not doing nothing terrible. You're just, maybe somebody out there, maybe their family's looking for them. Maybe they're on an episode. I don't think anybody can judge, oh, this person is drugged or this person is, drunk, and that's it. I don't think it's our place because we're not experts. And if you're a psychologist, well, maybe you have a better idea, but I think we have to find the compassion in our hearts to say something. I drive by 101, which is the road that's by the beach, and sometimes there's this, people doing random things, and I'm just so happy to see that, officers don't need to be called. They're around, so they'll stop by and they'll give them a blanket, make them sit, talk to them. Did that officer that talked to Deanne made a mistake? Maybe. But I'm sure she knows her job better than we do. And maybe she didn't have a base to take her in. But maybe we have to find the compassion in ourselves and understand that that's a cry for help. And we have to find out who these people are, put them in a system, look them up, see if they're missing. This could have been avoided if she knew that she was missing. And I cannot sit here and say that she knew for sure or that it was in the system even. If somebody's missing and they are used to do that, I get it that you don't worry that much, but just report them. We all pay our taxes, so we can feel that if we need the help, we can get it. And that's what the police is for. And don't feel like you're bothering them. Fight for your rights. Goodness gracious, fight for your rights. Fight for your loved ones. This was kind of a heavy case, I think. Sometimes I end up this cases being a little upset or angry at somebody or just, a little sassy. But I feel like in this case it's impossible to feel that way. I just feel like it's not fair. I feel like we should know more about this, that our healthcare system sucks. We shouldn't be telling people, no, you cannot get this drug or pay full price for it. You're going to take the drug that I want you to take. When we are the ones that know that when something is working, especially with mental illness, it's very dangerous. Very, very dangerous road. So thank you so much for being here today. I hope that it wasn't as heavy for you as it was for me. I feel like my shoulders are like falling down here. Let me know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You guys know that I love to politely be okay with the idea that we don't think the same way. So maybe I'm just saying all these things and you're thinking, lady, you're crazy. You don't know how expensive they are. You have no idea how the healthcare system works. So but as somebody who used to take a lot of medicine a few months ago, I guess I'm giving my perspective from my stand, from where I am. Maybe you think something completely different. So I love to know that. Thanks again for supporting the podcast. Thank you for coming back each week. I'll read you guys on the comments on YouTube. And for those of you that are just listening, thank you for being here. Talk to you guys next week. Bye.